At my cousin's graduation, my stepsister called me dad's kid again. After 8 years, I snapped. But her chilling confession didn't just cut me, it destroyed my family. My stepsister introduced me as her dad's kid at every family gathering for 8 years. When I finally confronted her about it, she said, "Mom's already decided who gets the inheritance. I'm just waiting to see how much you're willing to fight for scraps." I didn't scream, I just walked away. That was 7 months ago. Yesterday, her wedding was postponed indefinitely. Our parents haven't spoken to each other in weeks. When did you realize you never stood a chance against your stepsister's need to be the only daughter that mattered? In blended families, how you're introduced reveals everything. Sister means equal family member, while dad's kid means you're temporary. And after 8 years with Emma Richardson Hayes, I'd learned exactly which category I belonged to. Emma had the kind of tragic backstory that made you understand why our parents' approval consumed her. Her biological father had abandoned her when she was 7. When Linda married my dad, Emma saw it as her chance for the stable family she'd always craved. Emma was beautiful, charming, and absolutely convinced that there was only room for one daughter in our blended household. When she introduced me as dad's kid for the 94th time at our cousin's graduation party, I reminded myself that family meant being patient with someone else's insecurities. But patience has limits, and mine shattered the night my college roommate Maya came home with me for Thanksgiving. The drive from campus had been filled with my nervous chatter about family dynamics, warning Maya about Linda's perfectionist tendencies and Emma's need to be the center of attention. Maya had laughed it off, saying she came from a big blended family herself and understood the complexity. Nothing prepared either of us for the performance that awaited. Linda had spent 3 days preparing for Maya the rival, transforming our dining room into something from a magazine spread. Fresh flowers on every surface, the good china that only came out for special occasions, candles flickering like we were hosting a state dinner. She'd even had the carpets professionally cleaned, as if Maya might judge our family's worth by the thread count. "Everyone, you remember Maya, Sarah's friend from school?" Linda announced when we walked through the front door, pulling Maya into an immediate embrace that lasted just long enough to establish ownership. Maya was guided to the seat beside Emma at our dining room table, my usual spot before I'd learned to take whatever chair remained. I ended up squeezed between my elderly great-aunt Dolores, who smelled like mothballs and asked the same 3 questions on repeat, and Emma's boyfriend Trevor, who immediately launched into a monologue about his cryptocurrency investments. From this vantage point, I had a perfect view of Linda's masterclass in manipulation. The dinner conversation flowed around me like I was furniture. Maya, to her credit, kept trying to include me, asking about my psychology major and research assistantship, but every attempt was deflected by Linda's strategic interruptions or Emma's scene-stealing anecdotes. She peppered Maya with questions about her pre-med studies, nodding enthusiastically at every answer, while completely ignoring my presence. When Maya mentioned her parents' cardiology practice in Boston, Linda's eyes lit up like Christmas morning. "Oh, how wonderful! Emma has always been fascinated by medicine, hasn't she, sweetheart?" This was news to me. Emma had spent her high school years focused on theater and social media, showing zero interest in anything remotely scientific. But she nodded eagerly, launching into a fabricated story about considering pre-med before realizing her true passion was helping people through social work. Every time I tried to join the conversation about academic achievements, someone would redirect the topic with surgical precision. I mentioned making Dean's List for the 3rd consecutive semester, and Trevor suddenly needed to discuss his fantasy football playoff predictions in excruciating detail. Linda barely glanced in my direction, too busy refilling Maya's wineglass and asking about her MCAT scores. "You're such a good influence on Sarah," Linda told Maya during dessert, using words she'd never used about me to Emma. The implication hung in the air, that I needed external influence to be worth anything. That's when Maya finally noticed the weird dynamic. She tilted her head, asking Emma with genuine curiosity, "So, how long have you and Sarah been sisters?" Emma hesitated just long enough for everyone to notice. "Oh, she's just my dad's kid, from his first marriage." The words hit the table like dropped crystals. Maya's fork stopped halfway to her mouth, clearly remembering all the times I'd called Emma my sister. Dad's face went through confusion, recognition, then shame. I excused myself to help clear plates, hands shaking. Maya followed, whispering, "That was really weird, right? The way she introduced you." Everything I'd been pretending not to notice came flooding out in that kitchen. I'd been Dad's kid at 94 family events, while my friends called Emma my sister, but the second Linda was in earshot, I became a temporary family, a remnant from Dad's previous life. My 21st birthday was approaching. As the planning progressed, I watched the familiar patterns emerge. Linda took over the guest list, inviting her friends while forgetting mine. Emma volunteered to coordinate decorations, choosing her favorite colors instead of mine.
2 weeks before the party, I made a decision that surprised everyone, including myself. I was going to use my own birthday to demonstrate exactly what Emma had been doing to me for 8 years. At the party, when our cousin Jake warmly said, "Emma, this must be so exciting, celebrating your sister's milestone birthday," I stepped forward and delivered words I'd rehearsed for days. "Actually, this is Emma, just my mom's daughter. We live in the same house sometimes." The phrase landed exactly as I'd intended, a perfect echo of her own dismissive introductions. Emma's face went through the same confusion I'd experienced countless times. I spent the evening systematically excluding Emma from conversations, redirecting topics when she tried to participate, treating her like hired help rather than family. By the end, she looked genuinely distressed, unable to pinpoint what had happened, but aware she'd been marginalized. We barely made it home before she confronted me in my room. "You made me look like nobody at your own party," she said, her voice sharp with desperation. My voice stayed steady as I finally articulated 8 years of hurt. "Do you want to know how many family events you've introduced to me as dad's kid instead of your sister?" 94. I counted. Emma's face shifted through denial, recognition, then defensive anger. "That's different," she started. "How is it different? Because when you do it, it's protecting your relationship with your mom, but when I do it once, suddenly I'm the problem?" That's when she turned mean, her mask slipping completely. "You don't understand what it's like to actually need this family. You have your real mom. I don't have anywhere else to go." "You've been trying to erase me this whole time, haven't you?" I asked, my voice hollow with realization. Her vulnerability was real, but so was the calculating intelligence underneath. "You want to know the truth? Linda and I talked about this years ago. We decided it would be easier for everyone if I took the lead on family relationships since you already had your real mother." The casual way she revealed this long-term strategy took my breath away. This wasn't sibling rivalry. This was a deliberate plan to restructure our family hierarchy with me as the permanent outsider. She told me about late-night discussions with Linda, strategic conversations about handling the transition of blended family life, how they'd agreed that Emma should be positioned as Linda's primary daughter while I was gradually shifted to the periphery. When I asked about the family photos where I'd been systematically excluded, Emma's face showed genuine shame. "Mom thinks the Christmas card looks better with just the 4 of us. She says your mom can put you in her family photos." The casual cruelty hit me like a physical blow. I was being erased from official family documentation while being expected to remain grateful for scraps of inclusion. I pulled out a box I'd maintained since we first became stepsisters, mementos from when we genuinely tried to bond. Disney World photos where we looked like actual sisters, friendship bracelets we'd worn until they fell apart, birthday cards where Emma had written about being grateful for a real sister finally. Each memory revealed the scope of what we'd lost. Emma's defensive anger dissolved into something that looked like grief. I showed her screenshots of text conversations where she'd complained to friends about having to share everything with dad's daughter. The messages revealed resentment and calculation that went far beyond normal sibling rivalry. Then I showed her the family group chat she'd created without me. Months of planning family dinners, coordinating gifts, organizing trips, all happening in a digital space where I didn't exist. Emma revealed how Linda's fears drove everything. Terror that I would somehow take dad away the way her biological father had abandoned them. It was a trauma response, systematic discussions about making me uncomfortable enough to choose my mother's house for holidays. When dad found us talking, we decided it was time for complete honesty. Emma confessed everything: Linda's long-term strategy, the deliberate exclusions, the way every family milestone had been orchestrated to reinforce their established hierarchy. Dad listened with growing horror. How did I not see this? How did I let this happen to my own daughter? Linda's voice carried from downstairs, that artificially sweet tone demanding Emma's immediate compliance. But for the first time in years, Emma chose our conversation over Linda's demands. When Linda finally burst through my door, her composure completely shattered. Emma and I were united in our response. "What exactly have you two been telling your father?" she demanded. "The truth," Emma said simply. Dad appeared behind her, resolute. "Linda, I think you should pack a bag and stay at your sister's for a few days. We all need space to figure out how to move forward." "You're choosing her over your own wife?" she asked incredulously. "I'm choosing my daughters," Dad said firmly. "Both of them. And I should have made that choice 8 years ago." The conversations that followed were difficult but necessary. Dad began therapy to understand how he'd been manipulated. Emma started counseling to unpack years of trauma-based competition. I moved back home, not because I was required to, but because Emma and I wanted time to build an authentic relationship without Linda's interference. It wasn't easy. 8 years of programmed competition didn't disappear overnight, but for the first time, we were operating from honesty rather than manipulation. The real test came during Christmas planning. When Linda attempted the usual exclusions, Emma shut it down immediately. "Sarah's spending Christmas morning here, and we're all exchanging gifts together. If you can't handle that, maybe you should reconsider your priorities." 7 months later, Emma postponed her wedding indefinitely. She'd realized Trevor, like everything else in her life, had been filtered through Linda's approval. When he suggested I shouldn't be maid of honor because it might create family drama, Emma ended the engagement that night. "I can't marry someone who thinks my sister is a problem to be managed," she told Linda. As I write this, a year has passed from my birthday confrontation. Our relationship continues to evolve, built now on honesty rather than manipulation. Linda remains part of our family, but her role has been permanently redefined. She's no longer the orchestrator of dynamics, though the adjustment continues to be difficult. The most surprising development has been Emma's relationship with my mother. "Your mom never made me feel like I was taking something away from you," Emma told me. "She made me feel like loving you both just meant there was more love to go around." That perspective, that love multiplies rather than divides, has become our foundation. It's revolutionary in its simplicity. The girl who accepted being called dad's kid 94 times is gone, replaced by someone who understands that family love shouldn't require constant auditions or strategic maneuvering. Every day we choose honesty over performance is a victory. Every boundary we maintain against toxic dynamics is strength. Emma and I are sisters now in ways Linda's manipulations could never create, bonded by choice rather than circumstance. Sometimes the best family strategy is recognizing when people who claim to love you are actually committed to controlling you and choosing authentic relationships over strategic ones. And that finally feels like family,